There's a simple strategy that we can use to draft the perfect team every single time on Underdog Fantasy. It's not crazy. It's not complex. It is the hero running back strategy. That is what we are going to exemplify today. Let's draft a winner. It's Short King Summer, dude. It just feels like no one in fantasy sports ever learns anything. Does he mistime it, or is Brock Bowers just a grown man? Brock Bowers is just a grown man. Dare I say, Rich, football might be back. In the words of Lane Johnson, this offense looks constipated. It's Short King Summer. All right, folks, we are here with quite a simple task. We are going to be drafting a hero running back team. We're going to draft Justin Jefferson instead of Saquon Barkley. And you might say, Davis, why would you do that? Well, there are many actual guys that we can use as our hero, which I think is something that people do get wrong about drafting running backs, drafting wide receivers, because we know a couple things for absolute certain, right? We know that the high-end wide receivers are the least replaceable assets in fantasy football. Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, Puka Nacua, Nico Collins, Amon-Ra St. Brown. These guys' scores really cannot get replaced. There just is no way for Chris Olave, Josh Downs, Michael Pittman Jr. These guys are so unlikely, not only in a 1-week sample, but of course in a season-long sample. Last year, Jamar Chase scored 90 more points than every other wide receiver in fantasy football. CeeDee Lamb, in the games that Dak played, was unbelievable in points per game. So I actually think when doing a hero running back team, you kind of give yourself freedom. And this makes sense if you, it's perhaps a little bit backwards, but it does to me make sense that our hero could be Bucky Irving. Our hero could be Jonathan Taylor. Our hero could be Chase Brown. If we get really lucky, our hero might be Amarian Hampton. We could even do a double hero, which is fine. We could do Kenneth Walker and Chuba Hubbard. We could have Isaiah Pacheco. And I think not on this team, but that is a strategy that I don't see a ton of people do. Oftentimes you see the zero running back people. I mean, I've been a victim of this myself, really commit to the bit. And they say, oh, I can't take, Alvin Kamara at 51. I can't take Isaiah Pacheco at 70 because, it doesn't fit the ethos of what I'm trying to do on this given team. But frankly, I think that is a little bit short-sighted, and we should have, especially because Bowers goes at 17 here, we should have a few options. We also are going to have options at 27. Josh Jacobs might be there. Chase Brown might be there. But the reason why hero running back works so well is because you do also need access to the high-end outcomes at the running back position. And you need access to those in an equilibrium style season where the season plays out closer to its projections. We are going to select Jonathan Taylor here to go with Justin Jefferson. That is a pretty common, combinatorial start. I mean, don't get me wrong. You are going to see a lot of those teams, but you're going to see a lot of those teams because they project very well and they're very strong. I mean, that is what we want. So you also need these high-end running back seasons. You need the guys who are not going to fall into a situation, but just immediately are starting the season projecting for 14.5 points per game, 15.5 points per game, which is where we are at with Bucky Irving, with Jonathan Taylor, with Josh Jacobs. We could do something a little bit interesting here with this next pick. It would be possible, for us to take. We could take Breece Hall. We could take Kyron Williams and really go in. But you guys will see when we make this next selection why hero running back is so strong if we're just thinking about closer to median range of outcomes on the season. On this team, I think let's actually do Devontae Adams and free ourselves up at quarterback a little bit. And what I mean by that is we don't want to feel that if there is a falling running back value at 94, could be Tony Pollard. I mean, unlikely to be Tony Pollard, but there could be a falling running back value there at 94, potentially at 99. And we want to feel free to take that without feeling that we absolutely have to take Justin Fields if we took Garrett Wilson, or Kyler Murray if we took Marvin Harrison, which, I mean, maybe you guys at home feel a little bit differently about that. But I basically feel that when you have selected your high price wide receiver, that is the guy that's most important to get your quarterback stack. The other school of thought is that, oh, your 5th round wide receiver, your Jackson Smith and Jigba, well, I guess he's more of a 3rd round. Your Chris Olave, I was thinking Ohio State guys. Those guys might need quote unquote more help, which I suppose to some degree could possibly be true. But on this team at 99 or at 94, I would like to be able to, I mean, honestly, even guys that I don't have ranked there, right? So even guys like Tyrone Tracy or Cam Scadaboo might make more structural sense because they're not likely to get back to us at pick 118. And you guys can already see what has been unlocked here with the year running back build. We've only taken 3 players, but we already basically have like an insane amount of optionality. George Kittle, by the way, all the way up to pick 35. The steam on Kittle, that gap closing between Trey McBride and George Kittle. Frankly, I actually have George Kittle below what is now his average draft position in my rankings, or just barely. I definitely do not have him ranked up at 35. I think there's a lot of complex reasons for that. Kittle actually would have been an okay pick on this team. Amarian Hampton goes at 40. Xavier Worthy goes at 39. This is a sharp room. We have a lot of people who are reacting, I think, correctly to the waves and moves of what is going on in training camp. Rashee Rice there at 42. We are coming back up to this pick. James Cook is an option, but I think obviously what we are rooting for here would be Moore or would be Metcalf. That allows us to take, the best projected guy. And there we go. James Cook goes anyways. My personal opinion would be that James Cook is more likely for regression in terms of touchdowns scored than he is in terms of regression at playing time, if that makes sense. We are on the clock. We are going to select Jameson Williams as the bring back in that Minnesota game. That is certainly my favorite game to stack, Detroit and Minnesota. Don't actually think it is all that close. That is the game that I expect to be the absolute fantasy bonanza. You guys can see, by the way, had we not taken a running back yet, so let's say we had taken at 22, let's say we had taken T, let's say we'd taken Garrett Wilson, back in the old days before the suspension, we had taken Rashee Rice. We actually probably at one of these picks would have felt that we had to take a running back. We also wouldn't have been, we're not going to on this team, but we also would not have been able to take Jalen Hurts. That's, I think, one of the strongest reasons on the left side of the board why hero running back is so strong. Because in terms of 5th round values, I don't think that you are going to get better than Jalen Hurts. We are on the clock at pick 51. And you know what? We actually are going to take Jalen Hurts. Why are we going to take Jalen Hurts? A couple reasons. First being, I think there's a pretty big tier break for me, a wide receiver, after George Pickens goes. So I think this next group of guys, Cortland Sutton, Devonta Smith, who went ahead of us, Jalen Waddle, Travis Hunter, Zay Flowers, Calvin Ridley. I think that is a fairly large tier break. The other thing is, we don't have to take Jared Goff or JJ McCarthy on this team with Justin Jefferson and Jameson Williams. I think that is kind of one of those interesting things about stacking. There are totally ways that Jameson Williams and Justin Jefferson totally get there in week 17, where the Justin Jefferson himself is kind of, maybe he equates to what Jamar Chase put on the field last year. He scores a touchdown per game, averages 90 yards per game, stuff like that. And JJ McCarthy is still not all that relevant. And again, taking Jonathan Taylor there freed us to do that. If we had not selected Jonathan Taylor, we would have had to have taken Kamara, Hubbard, Walker, Harvey, Mixon, and we did give the right side of the board. I mean, this guy who got Travis Hunter at 58, the Lamar team passing on Zay Flowers, that is a bit interesting. I would not personally recommend that. Although, again, if you look at it, isn't that so interesting? This team that is Nico, Brock Bowers, Lamar Jackson, Ted McMillan felt pressured into having to take Joe Mixon effectively. And let's be clear, zero running back is super overpowered, but it is not a good advance rate structure, right? At the end of the day, if you were building to advance a larger number of teams, you were going to have a harder time in an average season advancing zero running back teams because so many of your teams are not going to find the Bucky Irving, the Kyron Williams, the Isaiah Pacheco from his breakout season. Like, of course, every NFL season is going to have those guys. It is impossible. All 32 NFL running backs are not going to stay healthy. And so there are going to be a ton, and a lot of these teams have ambiguous backfields as well. Now, this pick is sort of interesting. My gut here is that running back is actually a little bit better. I kind of have these wide receivers in a flat tier. I'm recording this on Monday, July 21st, and we're going to see a huge dip in Chris Godwin's ADP. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take Isaiah Pacheco. And I'm going to take Isaiah Pacheco for a couple reasons. The first being my next pick is certainly going to be a wide receiver. The second being hero running back is always related to draft capital. And I spent a huge chunk of draft capital on Jonathan Taylor. I also, at this next pick, will be able to fulfill the Hayden Winks golden rule, which is 4 wide receivers through your first 7 rounds. That has basically worked every year that Best Ball Mania on Underdog Fantasy has happened. It didn't necessarily work in 2024, but I think there are a lot of weird and extraneous reasons for that. It would truly be bad luck if all the wide receivers in my queue go here. If this guy double taps Jaden Reed and Matthew Golden, that might have looked like a dumb decision from your boy Davis Mattek. Not a decision that we can't recover from, but it's not going to feel, okay, there we go. He takes Khalil Shakir, so takes a guy who wasn't even in my queue. I am going to take Golden here. I suppose the reason why, and you guys just saw me do a little bit of fear-based decision-making in real time. One, I have Matthew Golden ranked there. Do I have Matthew Golden in the current ranking set that is in my applet right now, ranked behind Chris Godwin? Yes, I do. That's one of the things that you need to be cognizant of while you're drafting. There's a huge amount of reward in skating to where the puck is going. Now, do I think a 7-round price on Chris Godwin, who is reported to not going to be participating in quote-unquote team activities in July, do I think that's a big deal? Frankly, I don't. I expect Chris Godwin to be, 60-40 to play in week 1. Could be, famous last words there. But right now, our team is currently constructed. We did Justin Jefferson in round 1, Jonathan Taylor in round 2. We did Devontae Adams. We did Jameson Williams. We added Jalen Hurts as our quarterback, Isaiah Pacheco as our running back 2, and Matthew Golden as our wide receiver 4. So we have our key elements. We have our 4 wide receivers through 7. We have our hero running back in Jonathan Taylor. We have 1 elite onesie, right? So whether that be a tight end or a quarterback, we happen to have an elite onesie here. And we have Isaiah Pacheco, a guy who, honestly, to me, seems like effectively in the same situation that he was in last season when he was a 3rd-round pick, just coming off of an injury. Everything that the team has intimated about Isaiah Pacheco is that he's the starter. They gave Eli Mitchell an incentive-laden contract, but only $1.1 million guaranteed. Kareem Hunt, a $1.5 million contract, and then a 7th-round pick in Brashard Smith. Nothing, honestly, anything could kind of happen in the Chiefs' backfield. I don't think that Pacheco should be a guy that you should have, 25% of on your fantasy teams or anything like that. In fact, Brashard Smith is my most drafted Chiefs running back. But if I'm just looking at Pacheco versus Joe Mixon, it's going to be really similar usage. Maybe Joe Mixon is probably a better NFL runner than Mixon, but Pacheco has a better offensive line. Pacheco obviously has the better quarterback. What will the passing down stuff be? Well, the Texans, they now have Woody Marks in there. Are they going to play Woody Marks and Dario Ogunbowale on 3rd downs? Now, over on this side of the board, we saw the guy who started with the 0 running back start do Mixon and Connor. He actually ran kind of hot here to be able to nab Stephon Diggs at 80. I like this team, but I do bet that internally he did feel a little bit frustrated to feel that he needed to take Joe Mixon here. And basically, there is no position that we need at this point, right? We've got Dallas Goedert as a tight end if we want him. We could take a quarterback at this pick. So maybe you could have argued that we should have taken one of these high-end wide receivers, maybe Hunter or whatever there. Pretty thin at wide receiver. So again, perhaps another reason. Actually, I'm going to do what my rankings say, and I'm just going to take Trey Harris. I think Trey Harris is sort of laughably undervalued right now. Mike Williams has retired. Trey Harris has signed his rookie contract. He's at training camp. In terms of, target competition, of course, Ladd McConkey could have a 30% target share. Do I expect Tyler Conklin or Quentin Johnston or Will Dissly to earn a huge amount of the targets? Honestly, do I even anticipate Amarian Hampton, who I do really like, being a 15% target share guy? Honestly, no, I do not. So I think that, by the way, that's another key reason, even if you don't subscribe to patreon.com/Davis Mattek for my rankings, keep up to date with your leg up, your ETR, your whatever rankings it is that you do, because you are going to be able to start to pick up spots like that where the default ADP is just like laughably wrong. And so we could take Andrews here. We could take Kelsey here. Honestly, we could have taken Kyler. Let's just go ahead and take Kelsey. I mean, I think Kelsey's fine. So perhaps there you guys can see a little bit of drawbacks with just like going into a draft with a strategy, which is always what we're trying to accomplish here. But if I'm trying to show off the superpower of doing these hero running back builds, it's a real drawback there, right? Maybe not a real drawback, but it does show, I suppose it shows how dearth the options are in rounds 9 and rounds 10. We take Jalen Hurts at 51. You look at the 2v2, Jalen Hurts and Travis Kelce versus Alvin Kamara and Kyler Murray. Funnily enough, the pick's right next to me. I mean, let's just be real. Let's call a spade a spade. This is Ronix 3, who's right next to me. He drafted, that's a better combinatorial pairing, right? It just is. Now, what would we have done at tight end? Were we not able to secure the services of Travis Kelce? I don't really know, because I wouldn't have taken Sam Laporta at 78. There's not a ton of use. I guess Mark Andrews was a bring back for Golden. So this would have maybe looked more like a 3 tight end team, which again is fine. I'm not trying to do that many 3 tight end teams. I would prefer adding in the third quarterback. I do think now maybe the 2-6-8-2 is a little bit undervalued by the market, but we add in Travis Kelce. So we have our elite tight end, and we have we know that we would really like to get Dallas Goedert on this team. Would potentially be thinking about taking Herbert at 118, 123, potentially thinking about taking Jordan Love at one of those picks. Jared Goff just went off the board over at 110. We also have Stafford, who is, funnily enough, one of the guys who is moving up the market. He's up to 152 now. So we could wait for him in 12, 13. We could work on a back stack with Cam Ward. We could work on a back stack with Sam Darnold. We could work on a back stack with Anthony Richardson. We just have basically, with this build, the 1-2-4-1, we have, or 1-2-5-1 rather. We added in Trey Harris. We have basically reached a nirvana of optionality. Now, I'm not saying you should do this with every team. I'm not saying that this particular team that I'm building is the absolute best. I mean, I basically think this team is fine. I don't feel this team actually would have been quite nice to have selected J.K. Dobbins at 118 on this team. But this style of build really frees you up, because you don't really want to be taking wide receivers in this range at all. Like, is anyone that excited about Bateman or Marvin Mims? I mean, I like Marvin Mims just fine, but let's be real. I think we need a running back more than anything. I'm going to select Tajay Spears on this team first, because I'm just a little bit light on him relative to the guys who go around him, relative to Byshell Tootin, Trey Benson, Rashad White. The second being, I want to add in just another smidgen of optionality there at the quarterback position. And I think stacking Tajay Spears and Cam Ward together is fine. I quite like Cam Ward this year. And I think we will probably just bite the bullet here, take JJ McCarthy, assuming that this guy to the left doesn't, and we will have gotten our stack. And I think with those 2 quarterbacks, I mean, let me know down below in the comments, but I think the line there being JJ McCarthy and Jalen Hurts, I think we're quite comfortable stopping with 2. I know this is basically the single biggest hot button issue in the niche, super niche best ball community is basically, are you a 2 quarterback bro? Are you a 3 quarterback bro? Are you a 3 quarterback every time bro? Are you a pragmatic 3 quarterback bro? I mean, I think, for example, what this user is doing right here, Fields with Wilson, Dak with Lamb, and Herbert with McConkey. I mean, that's a little bit of interesting synchronicity, but it does feel like he probably is going, like, if you ran that structure of team enough times, I think you're probably losing. That's just that. I mean, I don't mean to call this user out specifically. I think this is a defensible build. I'm not saying it's bad, but I am not sure that it's 100% optimal. Like, I think that team looks a decent bit better with David Njoku or with Loveland, because in the 11th round, I mean, we're not into $1 player territory yet, where I think the third quarterback argument is so clearly, like, I think you just want them as, if I'm looking at Cam Ward versus Jalen Wright, and I draft a lot of Jalen Wright, you guys can see 14.4%. I mean, I think you could just feel so much more confident that Cam Ward is going to add points to a team. And well, I mean, you guys see the 3 quarterback stuff is taking over the world. We have Cam Ward going here at 133. We have multiple teams who have already selected 2. We have we have 2 teams actually who have already selected 2. And I'm not, there's obviously very solid mathematical basis for this. The legendary upside Sims that Shady and Sacrilegious and Pat Carrain all worked together on. I mean, I think what they're driving at is so true. I don't know how you could argue it, that a third quarterback is so much more likely to add points to your team than, the running back 58 or whatever. What is interesting, however, has been the, dog eating its own tail circular element of that, in which, I got to get a third quarterback to add points. And now we've got, Cam Ward going ahead of Hollywood Brown. We've got the quarterback 25 going ahead of the wide receiver 60. You personally, you listener, you viewer, could look at that and say, oh, well, that makes total sense. That's what I would do too. And I'm not saying not to do it. I just kind of like Hollywood Brown, and I think he's a good play. So maybe I'm just being a bit persnickety there. I'm actually going to show you guys another thing to not be scared about, which is right now, I am just super aggressively drafting Dylan Sampson. Maybe by the time this video is out, it's going to be 48 hours after. Maybe we already know what happened to Quinshon Judkins. Maybe he's signed and it's fine. It's whatever. Maybe he's on the commissioner's exempt list and you can't get Dylan Sampson at 142 anymore. What I can say with a reasonable degree of certainty is that as Cleveland Browns training camp has begun, Quinshon Judkins is not there. Dylan Sampson is there. Jerome Ford is there. One of those 2 guys is going to be the starting running back for the Cleveland Browns, because I don't think it's going to be Pierre Strong. I don't think it's going to be Amani Marshall. I don't think it's going to be fullback Troy Hairston. And even if the Browns are the 32 out of 32, the worst offense, I mean, they had 8 rushing touchdowns last year. It's not going to be that much better than that. I mean, I would really get the sense that they're still going to get 10.5 points per game, 11.5 points per game, the starting running back for the Cleveland Browns. And that, Goddard goes from us. So that's a bit annoying. So Goddard goes. We have a 2-4-5-1. I think at this point, we should add in, let's add in a wide receiver. Let's add in my boy Jack Bash. Gives us a third quarterback if we want it, and Geno Smith, assuming that he is not gone. I personally am not falling victim to big fantasy football cabal telling me that Jack Bash is behind Dante Thornton. Could have taken Cedric Tillman there. Don't really want 2 Browns. Could have taken Leggett there. Would have been fine. We are airing a little bit younger in the wide receiver room. But again, this is, I think, there's kind of this key element of draft like you're right that gets lost when best ball nerds start talking about roster construction, which is if I'm drafting like I'm right, and I took Justin Jefferson in round 1, Devontae Adams in round 2, Jameson Williams in round 3, at that stage, it's fine for my next 3 wide receivers to be rookie flyers. If you assume some reasonable level of hit rate, well, then you're going to get roughly enough projected points there. We will probably take a 7th one, and I probably will err a little bit more on the side of chaperoning here. You know, we could do a Thielen on this team, a Wandale, a Michael Wilson. I mean, I really probably am unlikely to take Darius Slayton. Darius Slayton is sort of the platonic ideal of a wide receiver for this team. I almost was going to take Romeo Doubs, but I actually don't love the correlation between Romeo Doubs and Matthew Golden, because in my mind, and you guys could, this is what it's like to be inside of my mind. The Packers' perfect 11 personnel is Josh Jacobs, Tucker Kraft, Matthew Golden, Jaden Reed, and Dontavian Wicks. Now, that's probably wrong. In fact, I would say it's like 99.999% probability to be wrong. But I do wonder if there's the freaking Packers have a million wide receiver fours. Did you guys know McCole Hardman is on the Green Bay Packers? I wonder if you knew that. But effectively, I do wonder if there are some permutations of the way things play out for the Green Bay Packers season in which Romeo Doubs and Matthew Golden are not on the field at the same time because they are fighting with one another for boundary wide receiver snaps. Now, that's, again, not a ton of evidence to indicate that. Doubs has basically been locked in on the field. But I'm basically just thinking out loud because you guys are my friends, and that's what we do. So all the back-end quarterbacks go here. Cam Ward went at 133. Bryce Young went, so I'm kind of glad I didn't take Leggett. Stafford goes to... that's interesting. Stafford doesn't go to the Puka drafter. All right, we are up. We have a 2, 4, 6, 1. Yeah, I mean, I think we just take Algier here. Obviously, anytime that you... Here is the easiest hack for fantasy football I've got for you. Literally is not going to get easier for this all year. The most attractive handcuffs are the handcuffs that go behind the running backs in the first round. Algier, Shipley, don't think you really count Montgomery, Guerendo and James, Jalen Wright. I mean, I wish Mostert, Keaton Mitchell, Sean Tucker, Rashad White, DJ Giddens. I mean, should just be self-evident, which is that we want the first-round picks to fail when we don't have those first-round picks. What easier way to benefit from the other first-round picks failing than having their backups? Yeah, you know what? Let's just go classic chaperone here. We'll go Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen will ease us in some early season production while we're waiting for Jack Bech, Trey Harris, Matthew Golden to sort of break out. And we can effectively be done at the wide receiver position. Our team now stands with Jalen Hurts, J.J. McCarthy, Jonathan Taylor, Isaiah Pacheco, Tajay Spears, Dylan Sampson. Maybe should have just taken Will Shipley at that pick. I think Shipley and Hurts is like a pretty sneaky correlation. Obviously, in any event in which Saquon Barkley is missing time, that's positive for Hurts. Ergo, we get Will Shipley on the field. I think that is pretty strong. We've got Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams, Jameson Williams, Matthew Golden, Trey Harris, Jack Bech, Adam Thielen, and Travis Kelce is our tight end. Something that I like in particular strategy-wise this year about drafting Travis Kelce, about drafting Mark Andrews, honestly, even about drafting Zach Ertz. There's actually a ton of young guys and rookies to gamble on late at tight end. We have Mason Taylor, who I think is pretty strong. You have got Jatavian Sanders. You've got Elijah Arroyo. If you really want to be a slappy, you've got Aronde Gadsden and Harold Fannin. And you got to be a pretty sick pup to be drafting Aronde Gadsden and Harold Fannin. But my overall point, at least in my head, makes sense, which is that if there's going to be some dusty old tight ends who project really strong, but the question about their production is, are they going to maintain the efficiency they've had in years prior as they age? Are they going to miss more time than the average player with their projection because of their age? Then I think you want to be backing those guys up with young guys. I mean, that is I would assume that would bear itself out in the data, but I would also assume that that is intuitive to anyone who has played a serious amount of fantasy football, which is that old players are more likely to get injured. Young players are more likely to have back-weighted production because they're going to start the season slower. So now we need to think, do we want to do a 3 tight end team? I think we might, because we're not going to do 3 quarterbacks. We didn't get a good price on any of them. If we did do a 3rd quarterback on this one, it would be like a true 18th round Anthony Richardson situation, which I don't think is bad. You guys see the sidekick is telling me it's definitely tight end. It's absolutely, you just got to take a tight end. You know what? Let's actually do this. Let's take Juwan Johnson, who I do really like. I mean, I think Juwan Johnson is effectively the 3rd wide receiver on the Saints. Maybe you're a big Brandon Cooks believer, who, yes, by the way, look it up, is actually the 3rd wide receiver right now on the Saints. Or maybe a big Bub Means guy. Maybe you're a big Bub Means guy. I would hope not. But Johnson basically, he's a 15 to 17% target share guy, plays in a dome. He's got the Kellen Moore offense. I've always personally believed in Kellen Moore. I don't think that any of the things that happened with the Chargers were particularly his fault. So now we have got a 2-5-7-2, basically the easiest pick imaginable coming up here for us. We could just pick any handcuff running back that we want. We could do Hunter. We could do Brashard Smith. We could do Marshawn Lloyd. Doesn't really matter. We don't need a chaperone because we have Jonathan Taylor, we have Pacheco, and we have Spears. I think on this one, I'm just going to flip. I'm going to do eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I'm going to do Blake Corum on this one. I personally am just doing a bunch of flip-flopping between Jarquez Hunter and Blake Corum. I don't really care which one I get more of. I don't think the Rams right now in late July know who the running back 2 on the team is. I think they'd like to get them into camp. So, I think I did a pretty good job of fulfilling the hero running back mission. Jonathan Taylor is effectively Sisyphus pushing the rock up the hill for the rest of this running back room. And on a given week, I'm just trying to get like 1.5 good scores out of Pacheco, Spears, Sampson, Algier, and Corum. If Bijan Robinson and Kyron Williams stay healthy all year, these are effective zeros. And then it's on to Spears, and then it's on to Sampson. But again, that's fine because Jonathan Taylor is already doing the heavy lifting, and I've given myself a lot of other cracks there. And the wide receiver room is perfect. I've got my 3 studs in Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams, and Jameson Williams that I'm asking to score for me every week. I've got the 3 potential rookie breakouts in Matthew Golden, Trey Harris, and Jack Besh. And then I've got my tight ends are nothing to write home about, right? Travis Kelce, age, 47? He's fine. Juwan Johnson was the 2023 Best Ball Mania highest scoring tight end. So, shout out to him for that. Positionally, the sidekick is still telling me I don't have any tight end points. I kind of want to take another wide receiver. I would like it a little bit more if there was an obvious stack. This would be like Ty Felton or Jalen Naylor or something like that. I'm curious your guys' thoughts, what you think that I should do with any of the... Wow, the Jalen Naylor ADP, I literally did not notice this. What a rocket ship for Jalen Naylor, who is now rocketing up an ADP because he's going to start for 3 weeks while Jordan Addison is suspended. Shout out to Jalen Naylor. I just really don't want to take a 3rd tight end. Really, at the end of the day, that's what it is. You know what? I'm going to take Elijah Moore because he's a bring back for Philadelphia. I didn't end up with any stacks there with Jalen Hurts. I'm just asking him to run for a bunch of touchdowns in week 17, which is fine. And we're going to take Elijah Moore, who I think right now is kind of the odds-on favorite to be like the rotational slot wide receiver 3.5-ish on the Bills with Curtis Samuel. But I think Elijah Moore is good. Elijah Moore, by the way, still young, Elijah Moore. Let me just double fact check this for you, but I'm relatively certain Eli Moore is, he's only 27 years old. How about that? No, 25 years old, Elijah Moore. Final team, Jalen Hurts, J.J. McCarthy, Jonathan Taylor, Isaiah Pacheco, Tyjae Spears, Dylan Sampson, Tyler Algier, Blake Corum, Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams, Jameson Williams, Matthew Golden, Trey Harris, Jack Besh, Adam Thielen, Elijah Moore, Travis Kelce, Juwan Johnson, Comment down below. Do you think this is a good or bad hero running back team? Like the video, subscribe to this channel for daily fantasy football videos, and I will see you guys all